Hi, this is Denise Matthew, and welcome to episode 59 of the Mandala of Life, 365 Days to Self-Discovery. Today we're moving away from abstract collective energy and the ideas, stimulation, and the stories of the Gate 11 to individual energy and the Gate 10, which in many ways can be considered one of the most important gates in the human design bodygraph. Because it's within this energy that we find the concept of self-love. And when we feel empowered by who we are and loving ourselves, that empowerment can spread to others in our aura, and the collective energy of the Maya can be increased an octave. The Gate 10 is also special in that it's part of 3 specific channels and talk to the ideas of survival of our form, following our convictions, and awakening that can connect you with the higher planes of life. Because when we love ourselves, anything is possible. When we talk about the 10th gate, we talk about the gate that conditions the whole world for how we behave. And when we talk about behavior, we know that our behavior shifts based on the circumstances that we're within. But it's always about being ourselves no matter what. And even if our circumstances are changing, our authenticity always remains the same. We could say that our behavior would be considerably different if we're at a symphony where everybody's quiet listening to the music, as opposed to being in a shopping center or in an amusement park where your behavior would be markedly different than it is in a symphony. And that's what this energy really speaks to, and how we moderate who we are based on the circumstances that we find ourselves in. And yet this is one of the most important gates for our individuality. This is where we find this ability to love ourselves. But as we know, there's a duality in all things. And here it's to not love ourselves, instead to think of ourselves as less than or not good enough. This energy comes from the identity center, which talks to this core of who we are, the soul of our being. The interesting part is the opposition to the Gate 10 is a Gate 15, which is the love of humanity, which says that only when we love ourselves can we love the extremes and diversity of the human world around us and all the people that reside in the world. And if we don't love ourselves, many times we can't be happy in the world that we live in. Individuality always speaks of being an example of yourself, your authentic self, the truth of who you are. And when you are, your empowerment for being exactly who you are spreads to other people. It spreads to your aura. It's the lip of the vessel of love that pours into the collective. So there's a lot of power and responsibility within this energy. There's a duality to all energies. This could be about needing to always put yourself first at the expense of others, or always putting the needs of others ahead of you. True self-love comes with balance. But before we get into new content, let's quickly go over what we talked about in our last episode. In our last episode, we talked about the Gate 11 and how it's half of the channel, the 1156, the channel of curiosity. This is where the ideas for the possibility of life are formed. When the circumstances are correct, then we can share those ideas with the collective. These ideas can be used to teach, or stories that you've had about the experiences of your life. This might be where you like to stimulate others with your ideas. This is also called the Gate of White Magic, where we in some way infuse the world with light. The biggest fear within this energy can be that there is more darkness than light. Yet also within this energy is the ability to spread your light, to emanate it to the collective, so that the aura of the world is somehow increased because of the light that you emanate. This is also a projected channel, which means that when people ask you for your input and your ideas, you have a better chance for people to understand and be open to what you have to say. And if you want to find out more about the Gate 11, please check out episode 58 of the Mandala of Life. With that said, let's get into new content. And please feel free to check out the other episodes of the Mandala of Life. The Gate 10 is part of 2 different circuits, the integration circuit and also the centering circuit. And there are 3 channels that the Gate 10 is part of. One is the 1034, the other is the 1057, both of which I talked about when I talked about the Gate 34 and also the Gate 57 in the Mandala of Life. But today we'll talk about the last channel, the 2010, which is called the channel of awakening. As many channels are in the bodygraph, this is a projected channel as well, which means that unless you are asked for what you have to say or for your input, people may not value what you have to say. This could be especially hurtful because any energy that comes from the G center that goes directly to the throat is an energy that we're speaking from the depths of who we are, the core of our being. And if people don't accept what we have to say, or in some way are not interested in what we have to say, then that can feel quite hurtful to us. And in many ways, we may not allow people to hear what we have to say anymore. So you may not talk about the things that you want to talk about anymore because people don't accept or understand what you have to say, which is not what anybody wants, because the energy within this channel has so much potential for good, to empower those around you with the words that you speak, or the other perspective is to disempower people with the words that you speak. Another name for this channel is called the channel of the verbal gunslinger, or even the channel of the Buddha. This is a mystical channel as well, and goes back to the idea of being awake, or being conscious of something beyond the material plane, a higher form of consciousness where we can in some way see beyond the illusion of the Maya. And the most interesting part of this awakeness that comes within this energy is that it is recognized by other people that you are awake, which speaks to the concept that though many people may say that they are awake, only the truly awake are recognized by the collective as being awake, or so the theory goes. And how you're recognized for being awake is by the words that you use that can enlighten, awaken, and even lift up the spirit of those all around you. But since we're talking about the gate 10 today, let's talk about the hanging gate 10. A hanging gate 10 can be easily conditioned by other people because ultimately there's always a connection that's going to happen, and it can happen in 3 different ways, which means that it's going to be conditioned by 3 different gates. The gate 34, the gate 20, and also the gate 57. We talk about the integration circuit, we're talking about the survival of the individual. And the survival comes through this concept of following our own convictions or what we feel is correct for us, awakening to the world around us in the now, and survival of the form. This is also the gate of the underlying code of behavior. The code of behavior that is connected to the gate 10 is related to the profile lines of your body graph. So our profile works through us in a way that it is expressing our personality profile line in the way that we interact or behave in the world. And it's much like a roll gate in that you don't actually have to have the gate 10 defined in your body graph to have a certain code of behavior. But if you happen to have the gate 10 defined in your body graph, then there would be a melding of the energy of the line that the gate 10 is in, and also your personality profile line. Now, you can also use your design profile line as well, but you may not be as aware of that energy as you would with your personality profile. The gate 10 line 1, which connects with the profiles 1-4 and 1-3, is called modesty, and also can be called the chameleon. In other words, you are aware of how you fit into the collective and you act accordingly, adjusting how you behave based on the circumstances you find yourself in. When we get to the second line, then we're talking about profiles 2-4 and also 2-5. And this is called the line of the hermit. And this talks to the idea that instead of being influenced to change yourself in some way, it's important for you to retreat, to be within yourself, and to not get pulled out into the fray by the expectations or the projections of others. It is about being your own individual and your own self, despite what other people want from you. And by doing this, you have an opportunity to be awake. The line 3 connects with the profiles 3-5 and also 3-6, and is called the martyr, where you're here to experiment with your behavior to decide what works for you and what doesn't work. This is also a place where if you have this energy, there can be an expectation from those outside of you for how you should conduct yourself or how you should act. And yet the most important part of this energy is for you to experiment with your behavior and to experiment with what works for you and what doesn't work. Because only by being yourself can you truly find self-love. When we get to the line 4, this is connected to the profiles 4-1 and also 4-6. And we get to the line of the opportunist, where we have the energy of fixedness and staying with one thing before you move to something else. In other words, until you have another opportunity, it may be in your best interest to stick with the opportunity that you have. This talks about sticking with the same behavior that you usually have until you feel that it is prudent for you to alter your behavior to accept a new opportunity in your life. This is really waiting for the right moment to move to something new. When we get to the line 5, this is connected to the profiles 5-1 and also 5-2, and is called the line of the heretic. and speaks to the energy of challenging the norms of society. This is not an energy that is always challenging society. This is an energy that you challenge society or challenge the norms when it's correct for you to do, or when it's a worthy battle for you to wage. This is where you challenge the underlying tradition, where you get in and get out. And one of the most important parts of the challenge of behavior or the standards of society is that whatever you are proposing to shift into is something that is considered practical to the collective. When we get to the line 6, it is connected to the profiles 6-2 and also 6-3. And this is the energy of the role model. This is where you're the fullest expression of who you are, your authentic self. By being exactly who you are, you empower others to be who they are as well. When you are walking your truth, you are naturally impacting the collective with your individuality. This is expression of the self through your actions, not your words. The line 6 of the gate 10 is the last line of the gate, which melds into the energy of the gate 58, the next gate of the mandala, where the gate 58, line 1, is called the love of life. So when you are being your authentic self, then that is when you have the potential to truly love life. There are a multitude of ways of why the gate 10 is so important and also complex, but one of the most beautiful parts is how it is connected to the vessel of love and the nature of being, which speaks to the idea of recognizing who we are, and where the mantra, know thyself, becomes very evident. The love of self is one of the 4 gates of love in the G Center. Within these 4 gates, the gate 10 plays a vital role in how love is released in the world. Many years ago, Ra Ruahu described exactly how the love gates work, and this is how he explained them. It is best to have an analogy, and I use the analogy of a container for all 4 gates of the vessel. You can call it a vessel. The container has an outside wall. Our outside wall is what we would call the aura. That is, you are penetrated the moment that someone penetrates your aura. The outside wall, the aura, is the 15th gate, the love of humanity, which is in essence the collective aura that adds up to the totality, but it is the surface of us. If you have a vessel and go inside the vessel, you have a wall on the outside, what we call the aura, but you also have a wall on the inside that contains it. For us, it is no longer the aura. This is the flesh. That is, it becomes this enclosed sac that holds us all inside. This is the flesh. This is a container, and the 46th gate is the love of the body, the love of the flesh. If you have a container with an outside and an inside wall and it is contained, you have to have something inside. What you have inside, in our case, is blood. What it really is inside is what we call universal love, the 25th gate. When you have all of that together, the love of humanity that creates the aura, the love of the flesh that creates the maya, and the blood that makes it all run with its spirit, you have to have some place to go. The way that you go is that you take the vessel and you pour it. And when you pour it, it comes out through the lip, which is the 10th gate, because the 10th gate is the way. The way is the potential to love oneself. And when we have learned that self-love is the beginning of love for humanity, and that only by expressing ourselves authentically can we truly be comfortable in our own skin, the mandala of life turns again, and we move into the energy of joy. This is the gate 58, half of the channel of judgment, a design of being insatiable, where stimulation is the key to joy. Well, that's all for now, and I'll be back soon with episode 60, the gate 58, the gate of aliveness. Until then, take care, and I'll see you again soon.